Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about everyone's favourite metal box, the Chimera APC. Beloved by Guard players and quite possibly the most recognised transport in the game. Yeah, I am including the Rhino in that as well, guys. I said it, fight me. The Chimera APC is a really good unit and one which has received a whole host of buffs with recent balance patches and Pariah Nexuses and all this kind of good stuff. And what I want to do today is take you through step by step why I think that a Chimera meta is incoming. And so, without further ado, let's mount up, roll out, and drive right into today's episode. You there! Have you bought yourself a copy of Sharp's Command yet? Damn you, I say. Or use the affiliate link down below in the description to buy yourself a copy of the latest book in the best-selling series by Bernard Cornwell.
The fault was not mine, sir. Major Lennox must answer.
Major Lennox answer with his life! You disgraced us, sir! You shamed us, sir!
Sharp's Command is jam-packed full of action from start to finish. So what are you waiting for? Click on the affiliate link below and buy yourself a copy today. Support the channel and your king and country.
Yes, sir.
First things first, let us remind ourselves what the hell the Chimera is bringing to the table. Let's have a quick overview of its datasheet. For 70 points, you are getting a dedicated transport with a movement of 10 inches, toughness 9, a 3+ save, 11 wounds, leadership 7+, and OC of 2. Each Chimera comes equipped as standard with a multi-laser, a heavy bolter, a lasgun array, and armored tracks. You can swap out the multi-laser for a heavy bolter or heavy flamer, and you can swap out the heavy bolter that it starts with for a heavy flamer. You can also give this a heavy stubber or storm bolter just on top of all of its normal weapons, and you can give it a hunter killer missile as well. The Chimera can transport 12 Astra Militarum infantry models, heavy weapon teams and veteran heavy weapon teams counts as 2 models, and Ogryns count as 3, and it cannot transport any artillery. Finally, it has a firing deck of 2, a deadly demise of D3, and it has the mobile command vehicle special rule. In your command phase, one officer model embarked within this transport can issue orders even though it's not on the battlefield. When doing so, measure distances to and from this transport. Bringing all of this together, overall, I personally find the Chimera to be a reasonably durable vehicle, which is surprisingly well armed for a dedicated transport. It has a generous transport capacity, allowing it to carry full squads with attendant officers, and it has a couple of useful abilities with the firing deck and the mobile command vehicle. But it's had all of this since the beginning of 10th edition. Why has all of a sudden it jumped to the top of my radar? Why am I now saying more so than ever before that I think we are entering into a Chimera meta, a mechanized guard meta? Well, one of the big reasons for this meta shift is the nerfing of infantry blobs. Thanks to the reinforcement stratagem now being made once per game, infantry has become a lot less sacrificial. We need things that can get onto prime objectives and hold them. Now, there are some ideas being thrown around about making Krieg blobs as durable as possible, and that's something I will be looking into with Feel No Pains and Invulnerable saves. But the most straightforward way of doing this, and what I think is probably the most reliable way of doing it, is meching up. If your infantry is getting blown off the table and you need to make it tougher, well, put it inside dedicated transport. Dedicated transports will allow you to be faster, you'll get those objectives quicker, and even if the transport dies, well, the 10 infantry get to spill out onto the objective and hopefully continue to hold it. And yes, you absolutely still want to be taking a decent amount of battle line in your guard army, because Pariah Nexus is encouraging it heavily. You have battle line units that are now able to score additional hard victory points in the game with things like Raise the Banners just for being battle line on an objective. But it's not just about dodging nerfs like bullets in the Matrix or about being able to exploit the new focus of Pariah Nexus. Chimeras have become fundamentally much more powerful. And this is due to the changes to Born Soldiers, the detachment rule you get in the Guard Index. How it used to work is if you stayed still, then you got lethal hits. Now, how it works is if you are a regiment unit, essentially infantry, then you get lethal hits against non-vehicle and monsters, other infantry and the like. You don't need to stay still, you just need to have line of sight. And for your vehicles, any vehicle with the squadron keyword, and chimeras do have the squadron keyword, get lethal hits as long as they can see the enemy unit, and that enemy unit is a vehicle or monster. Long story short, your infantry is going to get lethal versus enemy infantry, your vehicles are going to get lethals versus enemy vehicles and monsters. And like I said during the unit overview, the Chimera is putting out a surprising amount of DACA. If you give it double heavy bolter and a heavy stubber, which I personally believe to be the best loadout for it with these changes, then you have a vehicle that will put out 6 heavy bolter shots, 6 heavy stubber shots, and 12 lasgun array shots a turn, providing it is up close and personal. In total, this will give you 24 shots per Chimera when you're within rapid fire range. That is, on average, 4 lethal hits. Oh, and let's not forget that the Chimera does have sustained hits on the heavy bolts as well, so probably a sustained hit being thrown around in there as well. But you've got 4 lethal hits on average per Chimera. Now, considering that it's only 70 points, these things are eminently spammable. You can put 6 Chimeras in your list and barely break a sweat. In fact, when I build a mechanized list, I rarely leave home with less than 6 Chimeras. Now that means you would be generating 24 lethal hits. Many of those will be damage to as well, just from your dedicated transports. And that can be against anything from other light transports all the way up to super heavy and titanic units like knights. If you mass enough Chimera firepower up, you will bring knights down through stub rounds, las guns, and heavy bolters. And let's not forget that those hunter killer missiles, and each Chimera gets one for free, will also benefit from this. I think there's a real chance that if a bunch of Chimeras get together, using their hunter killers, using all of their small arms, they'll bring a knight down in a turn with a bit of luck on their side. And also, let's not forget the firing deck. This is another really big buff which has come about as a change to Born Soldiers and these lethal hits. How firing deck works in 10th edition is models inside the dedicated transport can shoot out of it. And the number of models that can shoot out is indicated on the datasheet. And in the case of the Chimera, you can have 2 models shoot out of it. But what's really quirky about firing deck is it's not the models that are shooting out of the back. How the rules essentially work and how it's written is it counts as the Chimera fighting those guns. Now this is kind of strange because if you overcharge a plasma gun from a guy inside the Chimera and then you fail your hazardous check, the guy inside the Chimera doesn't die. The Chimera ends up taking the hazardous check and taking 3 wounds. Now that's obviously not a good thing, but what is a good thing is that if you fire out of the Chimera using firing deck with a unit that wouldn't normally benefit from lethal hits against a vehicle, because it's like an infantry squad, right? It's a regiment unit. Well, now the Chimera is shooting those guns. So now those guns do benefit from lethals. And a really, really good way of using this is getting Born Soldiers onto units that don't normally have it. For example, Ogryns. Ogryns are an auxiliary unit. They don't have the regiment or the squadron keyword. So rules written, they don't benefit from Born Soldiers in any way now. But if they shoot out of a Chimera using the firing deck rule, then it's not the Ogryns shooting their Ripper guns. It's rules as written, the Chimera shooting their Ripper guns. And as a result, suddenly, those Ogryns, those Ripper guns are getting lethal hits. And bear in mind that each Ogryn can fire up to 6 shots from their Ripper gun. That would add an additional 12 shots to the Chimera from this firing deck, giving it 36 shots in total and allowing each Chimera equipped in this way and with models inside it in this way to be generating 6 lethal hits a time. And those Ripper guns are like heavy bolters. They're strength 5, they're -1, and crucially, they're damage 2. That's right, boys. Not only do we have a Chimera meta incoming, but we have an Ogryn fake taxi meta incoming as well. All of our degenerate dreams are coming true in one go. But wait, there's more, because there are other ways that the Chimera can do damage to people, and one of those ways is in combat. Now, you might be thinking, Mordian, why would you ever send your dedicated transport into combat? Well, actually, there's a whole bunch of reasons. One, you might want to tie people up. If there's an enemy that hasn't really got much anti-tank and it's got really good shooting, you can just throw it in there and maybe force them to fall back and therefore not shoot. But the real reason you might want to be yeeting chimeras into anyone you can get your hands on is the change to tank shock. Now, tank shock used to work on your vehicle's weapon strength. So, for example, if you have a Chimera with its armored tracks, which are strength 6, then that would be the number of dice you could roll to try and generate mortal wounds from the tank shock stratagem. But now it's changed. Now you don't do it from the weapon strength, and I think they changed that because like dreadnoughts would get like 14 dice from like their power fists and stuff like that. They've changed it now to toughness. So the Chimera, when it tank shocks, will now have 9 dice try and generate mortal wounds, which on average will generate you 3 mortal wounds just from yeeting a Chimera into a unit. And 3 mortal wounds is nothing to turn your nose up at. I know a lot of people have been hypothesizing about how tank shock will work really well with some bigger, tougher units like Rogel Dawns and Lean Russes, and absolutely it will do, because those things will be getting like 11 and 12 dice for tank shock mortal wounds. But the problem with like throwing some of those units in is that then they're stuck in combat, and that might debilitate them, that might reduce their firepower a bit. But Chimeras, they're eminently disposable. They're cheap, they're just metal boxes. And just being able to take one of those cheap metal boxes, and instead of just tying units up like we were doing before, actually be able to do damage from them in combat and overwhelming our opponents with just ramming Chimeras into them turn after turn, generating mortal wounds after mortal wounds, that's actually a pretty big deal. It's a unit that you can throw away and do damage with the entire journey. But gentlemen, ladies, small fur creatures with Alpha Centauri, this hype train has no brakes, because there is even more. The Chimera is not only a cheap, scrappy transport, it's also a good force multiplier, thanks to its mobile command vehicle rule. Like I said in the overview, this lets you do orders from inside the vehicle. Now, previously, you weren't that bothered about leveraging this rule because you just had infantry getting orders from people leading them. But like I said, we're not using blobs as much anymore. But the really big change, the really big reason why you're going to want to take advantage of mobile command vehicle is Sentinels. Sentinels are so hot right now. They are one of the top meta units for Guard because they have the regiment and squadron keywords. So they get lethal hits against everything all of the time. But because they have the regiment keyword, it means they can also receive orders from infantry officers. They don't need to rely upon tank commanders or the Lord Solar. And so what you can do is take cheap officers who can do multiple orders like Creed and Strachan and use them as pseudo tank commanders. Instead of spending 220 points on a tank commander who can do 2 orders and then he can boss around 2 Lean Russes, you could save a lot of points and take a Chimera with an infantry squad you were already taking inside, and then put Strachan in there, and then he could order 2 units of Sentinels. Now, I have actually tested this theory out in a recent battle report, and it worked like a charm. I had Strachan and a unit of Catachans inside a Chimera with 2 units of Sentinels, and I put it on one flank, and they just scout moved forward, and they took objectives quickly, and they had the firepower where they were making Grey Knight Paladins and Grey Knight Terminators teleport away out of fear. It's really, really effective because it allows you to get your Sentinels hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s of the Scout Sentinel, daring recon, and they've got lethal hits in there as well. And you're really fast and maneuverable, so you're getting off the objectives quickly as well. So, in conclusion, because we have been throwing a lot of shit at the wall, let's see what's stuck. I think we're entering into a mechanized meta because the Chimera is a great way to pivot after the reinforcement nerf. It's a great way to protect your really important battle line infantry. It has got a big damage boost from lethal hits, and that has indirectly boosted the units that are inside and firing deck. It can take advantage of the new tank shock, and it's a fantastic force multiplier for the very, very hot unit at the moment, Sentinels. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that we are entering the age of mech, or do you think there's some other area that Guard should be pivoting to? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. It's a really big help. And also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.